Roman coins and African coins dating way back centuries have been found in Goa. Not in single specimens, but in hordes. So you can imagine that there must have been a very lively trade at the time. And then, of course, at the time of the Sultans of Bijapur and even earlier, Goa was a place where Arab horses used to be brought and unloaded to be sent into the interior. So we have a long history of being at the center of things. Marco Polo must have passed by. Chinese junks were floating around somewhere here. So there were lots of things happening that we have forgotten historically and culturally. Our discussion today will explore some of these things and also look forward to how the future will shape up for the land that we love.
You know, I used to spend, I'm from my base in Singapore, I spent a lot of time traveling in Southeast Asia. And you could see the Goan, Portuguese, Indian heritage in layers across Southeast Asia. But I spent a considerable amount of time in the new country called East Timor, Timor-Leste, trying to see what India could do with a country like that, because we have strategic reasons for being there. But how do you convert a strategic need into live foreign policy? And then it hit me. India's foreign policy is about engaging three types of countries. Countries that make trouble for us, countries that play cricket with us, and countries that host our Malayali population. So, fortunately or unfortunately, Portugal, East Timor, Angola, Brazil, all the Portuguese-speaking countries fall into none of the above. If you don't play cricket with them, they don't make trouble for us, and they don't host our Malayali. Even on an occasion like this, the relations between the governments of the two countries are not that comfortable, right? Which causes us to look back at an event like 19 December and have different views of looking at it. There is no sense of putting this behind us.
We have been planning for almost 2 years to set up here in Goa a research center oriented to international relations, the Indian Ocean. And we have a colleague of ours, Paulo Menezes, that is here in the audience, belongs to the center in Maputo, and to my center also in Coimbra. So we are setting up a really network of South-South relationships based on not the state diplomacy, because we are not, this is not our bag. We are on the scientific and civil society type of relationships. I think that the states play their role. I think that I'm a person that I'm very critical of global capitalism coming from the World Social Forum. I like to see Brazil, India, South Africa doing a more progressive role in the emerging capitalism. I wouldn't like to see the Doha negotiations going ahead. I wouldn't like to see neoliberalism being the rule of the world. I wouldn't like to see Brazil and India being the new agents of the same global capital that destroys life and nature. I would like to see a different future, and I think that we social scientists that are critical of the capitalistic order, and we think that capitalism and colonialism go together, we are there to fight for a new type of relationships, post-colonial, non-colonial type of relationships across the South. That's the project.
You see, I'm a bit intrigued by the words crossroads, because I think they are both, it's a relevant description, but also exceptionally substantive. Because cities and places very often do go through crossroads, which it is very important to assess, appraise, and constantly scrutinize. I am not talking about how different people see what is happening today in a particular place from the prism of history, because I have discovered very often that history is everybody's mistress. And often objectivity in history is at best enlightened subjectivity. So people look at what happened in the past from their own points of view, but nevertheless, what is significant when you see what is happening today is to try and assess what has been the legacy of that history and its impact today, and what is the evolution, the churning, the flux, the change, the movement going on today? How is Goa at the crossroads today? That is the question that engages me. And from my point of view, I think Goa in a sense mirrors what is happening to other parts of India, but perhaps less spectacularly visible, because what is happening in Goa is often high profiled and is concentrated exceptionally densely in terms of its impact. The comparisons with the past, what is happening today, the pace of change, etc.
It is the urge to make money. It is the urge to buy Portuguese houses. It is the urge to get in as many tourists as fast as possible, and whatever types of tourists. And we've seen what types of tourists and horrible tourists have been colonizing the Goan beaches, right? So I think that's a debate I'd like to go on, but to continue there. But let me see what I can contribute to this debate. I think, let me start with two stories, because I think we are at the crossroads, and I think that's a good diagnostic, and we need to preserve, and we need to recognize that there's something distinct here which deserves to be cherished, and more than cherished, preserved, and continued, for purely financial interests sometimes. You won't have tourists coming to see a Goa which is not a Goa in 20 years, which will be like a Mallorca of Europe, right? You won't, so even financially, you can make the argument, this is not nostalgia, this is not about culture, this is not about preserving your nostalgic heritage or something. There's an actual material, an actual quality of life argument to be made here, that you need less cars on the actual Goan roads, or better cars and different cars on the larger Goan roads, which will not destroy the small villages of Goa. This is a fragile ecosystem which has to be thought and planned on a long-term basis. And Nitin and me were discussing this morning, about the issue of planning in India, right? And planning, and for example, in urban infrastructure. Planning is very costly. Why? And why do we need the state for planning? Because the state has to come and tell the people, on Kalangut Beach, for example, you have 50 shacks here, and this is looking horrendous, hygienic-wise, in terms of congestion-wise, security-wise, in terms of terrorist attacks. We remember there's those horrible security and travel warnings by the Israeli government and other Western governments whenever there's a New Year activity. It's precisely because there's a chaotic urban governance and urban infrastructure in Kalangut. So you have to tell those people, and that's planning. We can't have 50 shacks here. We need 10, and good ones with security and with space and with waste management and with space for the tourists to pass, right? That's the planning I'm talking about, and that planning has failed in Goa so far.
You know, one of the things we feel, especially sitting up on the dais, or when we are writing articles or books or policy papers, is that we feel that we have the kind of power to reorganize reality, to organize societies as we like them, to protect some things and to change some other things. Actually, we don't have that power. Human ability, especially an Indian citizen's or Indian government's ability to change the nature of reality, is extremely limited. So I think we have to be humble, right? We have to be humble to know that yes, some changes are desirable, some non-changes, some preservations are desirable, but our ability to influence this is extremely limited. But what we can do is make every single person capable of negotiating this change. And this comes to the little point about human capital.
When independence was approaching for us in India, because I was in Bombay at the time, 1945, 1946, it seemed pretty hopeless. And then 1947, it became a reality. We were told it was going to be a reality on the 15th of August. June, July, the first week of August, we became impatient for the British to go home. We couldn't wait for them to leave. But once they left, we were friends again. The same thing, in a sense, should have happened here in Goa. Except that the Portuguese did not leave willingly. They were shown the door. But still, we should have re-established ties much sooner than actually happened. There is no doubt a great deal of rancor here still among some people. The freedom fighters, for example, resent the Portuguese to this day.